The brains of our children are not for sale, says French President Emmanuel Macron, commenting on his plans to ban social media for children and teenagers. But also other European countries are waking up to the alerts we've heard and seen for years about how devastating and how destructive online content can be for young, unprepared minds. Spain, Britain or Greece and others are planning to follow suit and cause a fury from big tech tycoons such as Elon Musk, who called the Spanish Prime Minister a fascist totalitarian tyrant. Is Europe ready to face the pressure from algorithm oligarchs? Or is this the beginning of a new war between Europe and the US administration? Welcome to TVP World's Wider View. I'm Grzegorz Nawrocki, and joining me in our studio in Brussels, Isaline Wittorski from ECPAT, International Network dealing with online exploitation of children. Welcome to the program. And Omri Preiss, a co-founder of Alliance for Europe, a watchdog looking at manipulation online. Welcome to the program to both of you. We've also invited representatives of major big techs to come to the studio, join us and answer a few questions. None of them agreed to come and do it. Well, might not be surprising, but it's still a pity that some questions will not be answered by this side of our discussion. You've spent, both of you, different angles, advocating for more protection for children, also online, and it seems that more and more countries now are determined to restrict online access to children, and Pedro Sánchez, Prime Minister of Spain, is at the forefront of this battle. Now let's take a look.
Today, our children are exposed to a space they were never meant to navigate alone. A space of addiction, abuse, pornography, manipulation, violence. We will no longer accept that. We will protect them from the digital Wild West.
So when you hear words like that from different countries, not only Spain, are you satisfied, or do you think it's too little too late?
So I think it's important that we understand also what's at stake. Of course, we're looking at the safety of children, but we have our entire society also in the balance. What Alliance for Europe does is we work to defend European democracy, to be able to counter the kinds of information warfare that we're dealing with, coming from outside autocracies and autocrats the world over.
Sure. So when you hear it, when you hear words like that, do you think a change for better is imminent, a change for better is coming, or is it just a political talk?
I do hope so. I think that the stakes are becoming more and more evident, and I very much hope that there will be actual, real action that follows through. Of course, what Sánchez says needs to be massaged, and the devil will be in the detail, but I very much welcome the fact that there's a European leader that wants to really take action. Not just him, some others.
So for you, it's still on the rhetorical level?
Well, let's see what he actually does.
Okay.
I agree. It's great to see promising talk from government, and finally seeing government expressing willingness to ask, because it's been long that we know about the devastating consequences of the online world, and government have lagged behind.
So well, you've talked to politicians a lot. You say we've known for years how devastating it can be for children. Why now? Why is it so late that we're taking these decisions?
I think there are multiple reasons behind that. First, the government were not really willing to address the big tech up front.
Why not?
Well, probably due to different lobby, different pressure. Second, it's also quite difficult to legislate the online world. There are different perspective angle, and we need to ensure the freedom and the respect of human rights for all, including privacy for all users. And also, we never really ask what is the online world that we want, what is the online world that we want for our children. This has been imposed to us, and finally, we can see that this discussion is happening now in the population.
Actually, you did ask these questions. Yeah. It's just that you were not listened to, were you?
No, not much listened to. We did ask in the population, but I think the voice of the situation is louder and louder.
Okay, so what has changed really that made these governments and the new governments that are joining this initiative so determined? What has changed?
I think if you look at the tech executives with the incoming administration in the US throwing overboard a lot of the commitments that they had towards things like, improving integrity online, improving trust and safety. Mark Zuckerberg coming up on this video that he did of just saying there will be more offensive stuff, there will be more things that we do less of, etc. We will allow more online harm because that's how it is. I'm paraphrasing, but that's broadly what he said. If you look at the change between Twitter to X, and now with the rise of AI...
With incidents of X actually trying to restrict some online activity of the European Commission because they didn't like something the European Commission did.
Which is, some will debate whether that's, allowing freedom of speech or not. I think there's some hypocrisy there. But yeah, now with the rise of AI, we have Grok, the X-affiliated or Elon Musk-owned AI tool that has apparently been used to generate a lot of sexually explicit content.
So what the feeling is, hello guys, you've gone too far.
Yeah, the amount is just rising, and I think the level of risk is being increased. We also have these tech executives, talking directly to extremists, and it's looking like there is politicization of this entire thing.
Okay, so keeping our focus on children in particular in this program, I'm sure that we have to talk about democracy and the influence on social media on democracy, and we're going to talk about it in a different episode of this program. But the harm has already been done for all these years. How easy or not is it going to be to make up for it, to cure it in a way?
It's not going to be. Harm is there, and there are victims, and people and children will live with the scars of this harm for their whole life. When we talk about sexual exploitation, sexual abuse, it's long-lasting consequences that impact the whole society, and the cost for the society is high for the children, from the family, from the relative. Everyone is paying the price of this lack of regulation and these devastating consequences.
What is do you know what percentage of children do have real trouble, real mental problems when it comes to using social media and the consequences of using social media?
Focusing, for instance, on the crime of sexual exploitation, more than half of the children say they have experienced sexual harm online during their childhood. Half of them sexual harm. So we are not talking about just some harassment. We are already talking about quite severe harm.
So what do you think to yourself when you hear, and you as well, the statements from big tech companies? Well, children's welfare is at the very, very top of our priorities. That's the kind of statements we read from time to time.
You don't do enough, and also the game is uneven. Of course, there are some players that are more willingness and that have demonstrated willingness to move, but they are solo players and they are not supported either by their other companies, nor by the government. So we have now seen that self-regulation, voluntary action is not enough. We need regulation to make the move faster and for more platform also.
So far, if we treat it as a battle between big platforms and governments, politicians and societies in a way, we might call it this way, then the victory's on the side of the platforms at the moment. Would you agree with that statement?
I think the platforms earlier on went some way towards implementing safeguards, and then more recently, in the last year and a half, 2 years, there have been clear signals sent that actually, yes, we'll comply with European laws to some extent, but there has definitely been a downgrading or a sense that this is now less important. And we see this with the wave of harmful content that we've seen, AI-generated content and so on, that has been flourishing. So I think what the Commission really needs to do, and the European Commission is crucial here, is to set some clear red lines about what entails DSA infringement and what entails compliance. And so that really needs to be a really bright red light for everyone to see. The Commission has been pretty cautious when it comes to DSA enforcement, because they know that it needs to be really watertight when it goes to court, because it will go to court, and that's their main consideration. They are right to consider that, but at the same time, the real world moves at a certain speed, and we need to make sure that enforcement happens at a level where it really catches up with real life. If we have to wait years and years before a decision is made, like when you have with antitrust decisions,
what can Europe do really as a collectively? Let's put it this way. Prime Minister Sánchez of Spain suggested creating something like the coalition of digitally willing, as he called it. But should there be some concerted, some synchronized activity from Europe as a whole, other than just recommendations?
That's what the Digital Services Act is all about, really. I mean, so we've spent some years putting this thing in place as Europe. Now it has to be enforced. We've seen the first fine that was issued towards X. We've seen a preliminary ruling about TikTok and addictive design, which is also very relevant for child safety. And now we really need to see, whether these fines start coming in up to 6% of global revenue. Will they happen? Let's see. And then we can go to more serious types of liability, like what Sánchez says, criminal liability for illegal content. Let's see.
Do you believe there's enough determination to do it? I mean, remember, we've got Donald Trump supporting American business, and big techs are actually at the very top of priority here.
For the moment, I think we have seen quite determination from the European Commission. As just mentioned, there has been an investigation regarding the enforcement of the Digital Services Act, and we see this as very promising. And talking about fines finally against platform, we hope the Commission and the member states will remain resistant to all the aggression and to the attacks that are done to our regulatory framework. But
we do have a case that we can actually analyze, and I'm talking about Australia, because they were the first ones who sort of created an architecture to safeguard children's welfare online. What kind of conclusions can we draw from Australia?
Australia has been at the forefront of the children's safety, not just for the social media ban that they were the first to enact, but they have adopted a long list of measures to tackle the online world and make it safe for children. Their decision to ban social media social media platforms, came after lots of other measures that have been placed in place, and that have been a really source of inspiration for EU, notably with on the regulation to tackle child sexual abuse.
Did all things go right in Australia?
It's
a few months. It's almost half a year, is it?
Yeah. So it's quite recent, and we have yet to see the result, and I think many legislators are looking at Australia to see how it is implemented, or are they resisting to the pressure of the social media company, and what is the real impact for children, because in all of this we also need some evidence, of what works.
What are we learning from Australia's case?
Well, I think if you look a few years back when Australia started bringing in some of this regulation, there was this big showdown where Meta said it would pull out of Australia, and it didn't. So you can see that a lot of threats are made.
Maybe that's a part of the game.
Indeed.
Should we expect the same thing with Europe?
I think every so often you hear this kind of a noise of, well, if there is too much regulation, we will pull out, etc. I think we shouldn't take that too seriously. I think it's also important for Europe to develop its own digital sovereignty overall. So we need to.
Should we take these words? Should we take these words seriously? It's Paul Tusk from NetChoice, he's saying Australia is engaged in blanket censorship that will make its youth less informed, less connected, less equipped to navigate the spaces they will be expected to understand as adults.
I mean, we partly agree with some elements of the message in the sense that we don't see a blanket ban on social media as the solution. Mm-hmm. Of course, we need age restriction, and it needs to be age appropriate. But what we want to make clear to the policymaker is that just putting a blanket no for children is not the solution. We need age.
What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it?
It's just restricting access to children without fixing the problem. The problem is addictive, harmful platform design and the wrong business model that is not based on children's safety. So what we want is age-appropriate experience for children.
So let me just understand it. So if the governments, including President Macron, Sánchez and others, Greece, Britain and all the rest, when they say let's introduce a ban, a blanket ban, a real ban with no exceptions, are they making a mistake?
I don't think it's the priority for them. I think the priority is to ensure that the online world is safe for our children. Is restricting access one part of the element, the game? Yes, it is part of the game.
But is it too little?
But it's too, and it's also focusing, it's not shifting the attention where it should be. Mm-hmm. We need to review how these platforms are designed. We just banning them is not solving. They're still harmful, and they will still harm teenagers, and they will also still harm the children that manage to access.
Well, then again, so we're coming back to the first question. It's too little, is it?
I think that
it's not enough for a political action just to advocate for a ban.
It's not enough in itself. In itself, it's not enough, of course, and it's also a very blunt instrument where we need to use some nuance. I think what you said about the business model is absolutely crucial. You need to change the design of these platforms so they are not designed around addiction. Right. They're not designed just on attention economy. We need to create a different kind of business model that actually leads to people being better informed, better connected, and happier in their life, and to make sure that our social institutions don't crumble as a result of these platforms.
That's the argument. You're actually citing an argument of the big techs. Yes, they're all providing all these services, but then again,
they're not really, though, that's the thing.
Well, just at the moment, I think there's a trial being on in the United States about them intentionally trying to make children addicted to social media. I'm just underlining the word intentionally. Just like with cigarettes a long time ago, isn't it the case?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, indeed. I mean, I mean, I'm not in their shoes, but there are things that they have done knowingly of the impact, or at least not enough carefully. They never assessed, the impact on children. They just throw their service out there and they see how it impacted them. And now we are seeing the consequence. That's not how it should be. Any new tools needs to be assessed and in the impact that it will have on children's safety, privacy, and security. And then we need to take the measure to ensure that this right will be respected.
So the source of the problem would be the big A word, algorithm, would it not?
Indeed, yeah, and you need platforms that have transparent algorithms where there is clarity about what is being used. You need user choice so that you're able to have, as a user, to be able to decide, do I want an algorithm? Do I not? What kind of algorithm do I want to have? And there needs to be an element of tech sovereignty. So Europe needs to be able to manage its own public sphere on its own terms, democratically, with freedom of speech, with all of the safety and integrity that's required to have a sane society using these tools. So yes, algorithms need to be transparent and under the control of the user. And we need to have a whole of society approach to connecting everybody.
So this is the ideal world you're talking about. Do you think the big techs will agree to that?
Well, they don't need to agree to it. They need to be legislated into it. And that's what I was saying. We need a whole of society approach to connect up the different actors that make up this ecosystem, and legislation is crucial here.
Now, obviously for big techs, it's a loss of profit, quite frankly, this kind of restriction. So, What would you expecting from them when it comes to this European case? Would you be expecting something like that?
Dirty Sánchez is a tyrant and a traitor to the people of Spain. Sánchez is the true fascist totalitarian.
Yes. Well, is this the kind of language that gives us hope that there will be some kind of, inverted commas, cooperation between government, societies and big platforms?
I think it's always the case that they are reluctant to regulation and there will be pushback. We have seen this in numerous legislation. Each time a sector is legislated, there is pushback. And it's important to have the debate to understand what is the constraint. But of course, this is also why we need powerful government to put the privacy and the safety of the children at the start, at the center. This is our society, and this is the question I raised. What is the world we want for our children, right? This is what must be the utmost important.
Were you surprised to hear the words of the richest man in the world to speak like that about the welfare of children?
I'm not. I'm not, and it's often come as a surprise to the public because we've been fighting for long for the end of child sexual exploitation and abuse of children. And everyone say, how comes you are fighting for that? How come it's not just accepted? And sadly, it is not. Children are not taken seriously in the society, and their safety are not.
It's not society, it's just, it's a business and tech elite we're talking about.
Yes, but sadly it's not just them. I mean, otherwise we would have seen this world regulated before, right? If it was taken seriously by the whole society. It's not like we learn about the harm now. This harm exists, we know this for long, and still there has not been action. So we have had to wait for a crisis, for skills that is unimaginable to finally see government moving to action. So, of course, I'm not surprised that this kind of person have this kind of saying.
As a matter of fact, you should be surprised. I mean, a person with that responsibility and that power and that wealth should be a bit more responsible, don't you think?
It should.
If you ask me if they should, he should, absolutely yes. I do think it's shocking, even if it's not surprising, let's say, because unfortunately the threshold is dropped very low these days, but it is still shocking. And that language of traitor to the people is very, very politically charged, far-right language that has some really...
Do you think the politicians will stand the pressure? We know that Elon Musk is or used to be a close ally of Donald Trump, and we know how this political link used to work in the past.
Well, we don't know if politicians will withstand the pressure. We really, really hope so. I think we as citizens, as civil society, as media, need to apply that pressure so that they understand that they have something to play for, that their seat depends on this as well.
Well, so if you were to come up with two most important steps that should be taken now, after we know there's a determination to go on with the ban, the blanket ban for social media for children. What else should be done as a conclusion of this conversation?
Age-appropriate design and privacy and safety by default for all children. So we need security and we need safety for all children up to 18 years old. I think that's the critical priority for our children.
So ban is not enough?
Yeah, I mean, a restriction, and I would not say a blanket ban is what we need. Well, of course, we need some certain restriction. All children cannot see all content, but it needs to be age appropriate, and we need to consider what is age appropriate for which age to which level of development of the children. I know we wish we have a silver bullet and an easy solution, but the problem is complex and the solution also needs to be nuanced.
You've got a child of your own, yes. Do you allow him or her to use social media?
Luckily, he's still young, but yeah, we definitely follow a minimum screen time approach. And I think that's actually what people in Silicon Valley do as well, according to reporting. But yeah, if you ask me what are the two most
Which is a paradox in a way, isn't it?
Well, you know, if you are one that makes the sausage, maybe you know you don't want to eat the sausage after you've made it. That could be it. I think if you ask me what the two most important things are, first actually implement the DSA with urgency, with ambition, and that defends freedom of speech, it defends all of our rights. Second, Europe has to invest in its own tech sovereignty, its own tech platforms, business models, and really be able to make sure that we can stand on our own 2 feet and not have to really be dependent on
the next
people.
5 years. Are you optimists or are you pessimists, rather?
It's difficult to say. I have some hope that finally the problem is seen and there is willingness from the political lawmakers to act. So hopefully we can turn the tide to these devastating years.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it will be very, very grim if we don't take action. So if we do nothing, we will end up in a really bad place. But if we work at it, if we do what's needed, I think we have a fantastic future ahead of us. And as some people said, the best is yet to come if we actually move it and do what's needed.
Right, more and more people realize that it's no longer an innocent game. It never has been, as a matter of fact. Just as a reminder, the big tech giants are facing a trial in the United States and are accused of making products intentionally addicted and harmful to young people. We'll obviously take a closer look at this trial. Now, the time has to scrutinize it and draw conclusions. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for being with us in the TVP World studio. That's it for today. See you next week on Wider View.